The seventh trumpet does not relate to 1 Corinthians 15:52. The seventh trumpet is executed in the second half. There is no exegetical evidence for Buswell to relate the 1 Corinthians 15:52 to Revelation 14. The seventh trumpet refers to the seven bowls and probably takes place during the last weeks of the Great Tribulation. When you look at those seven bowls, the earth becomes so uninhabitable. I just believe that those are all culminating intensively, quickly towards the very end of it. Now, I'll take a look at post-tribulationalism, but back to mid-tribulationalism just for a minute. In order to move Revelation chapter 14 to the midpoint, what problem do you have? Well, you've got the sixth seal, clearly declaring the wrath of God has come. You've got the seventh seal. You've got all those woes. You've got the little scroll. You've got the persecution of Israel. You've got the beast coming up out of the sea, out of the land. You have to take all of those chapters, which so chronologically and sequentially flow, and you got to pick them up and you got to move them. Well, I don't think that's right. I don't think it is fair or honest to the text. Now, an examination of post-tribulational rapture. Douglas Moo states, it seems reasonably clear that Revelation 11, 11, and 12 describes the resurrection of the two witnesses. Does this resurrection have anything to do with the rapture? The fact that the two witnesses are said to go up in a cloud may suggest this, for clouds are consistently mentioned in description of the rapture. I'd also say that clouds are mentioned quite often in judgment also. As elsewhere, when the rapture is mentioned, a trumpet is found in the text. Now, the time frame of the two witnesses. These two witnesses are said to prophesy for 260 days. Their bodies lie in the street for 3½ days. This would force the post-tribulational rapture to the very end of the 70th week and well after the wrath of God is released under the seal judgments. How does Moo solve this problem? We'll see. The second woe in the trumpets. The second woe is chronologically part of the sixth trumpet. The placement of the rapture in Revelation 11 displaces the sequential nature of the septet judgment. Moo rearranges the chronology and sequential nature to fit a post-tribulational view. Moo writes this, the abomination of desolation probably refers to an event at the end of the age. But we know the abomination of desolation happens when? In the middle of the age. The abomination happens at the midpoint of the tribulation, and it is aligned with the sixth seal. So you see what Moo has to do? I mean, not being too sarcastic, but this is a Casino Royale shuffling. You know? You got to take the deck and you got to shuffle it all over. He is more of a simultaneous view type of person. And you're completely ripping the literary structure and the grammatical structure, the linguistic structure, the thematic structure, and all the parallels of Daniel 9, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, 23, and the book of Revelation out of their context. Moo embraces all of the problems of mid-tribulationalism by putting the rapture in Revelation 14, 14 to 20. Moo places the sixth element of each septet in parallel so he can arrange other passages to Christ's parousia or coming. Moo forces the structure of Revelation into an arbitrary order to support his post-trib view. This structure disregards the textual clues of the chronological and sequential order of the entire book of Revelation. Conclusion, a pre-wrath rapture is pre-70th week or pre-tribulational. And more I find myself having to say pre-70th week because pre-tribulationalism, which used to be a technical term in theological circles, meaning pre-70th week, now people will turn around and say, well, I'm pre-tribulational, but the tribulation doesn't begin until the second half or 3/4 of the way in or whatever. Well, come up with your own name. You know, don't steal a technical term. Let's have some academic integrity. Come up with a new name, you know, call yourself a 5/7 or a 4/5 or whatever tribulationalist, but don't take a technical term and redefine it so you can somehow think that you're in the camp. The wrath of God begins in Revelation 4 and 5 with the judgment throne of God. Jesus executes the wrath of God by breaking the seal judgments. The first 5 seals are part of the first half, called the tribulation. The 6th seal is the midpoint when the abomination of desolation happens. Now, if you want to read this in even greater detail, and I don't recommend it if you're on a pacemaker or any anti-anxiety drugs, you could get my dissertation where I expand on this in much greater detail. But I'd find it in a library or something because it's too expensive to buy. It was published by McLean Press, or in the book When the Trumpet Sounds. You can still find that available. I have an expanded article in that excellent collection. So let's look at this final structure. The things which John had seen, 1 through 20. The things which are, the letters to the 7 churches. The things that will take place after. The tribulation begins in chapter 4. The judgment begins in chapter 4. The midpoint is chapter 6, verses 12 through 17. The Lamb breaks the 7th seal, and all of this just falls like water over a cliff, down and down and down, sequentially and chronologically. You'll see the trumpet 7 is the 3rd woe, which is the 7 bowls. The execution of the 7th trumpet is the 7 bowls. And it brings us then to chapter 19, which is the coming of Jesus Christ, and the great tribulation is brought to an end. And then the book finishes very nicely with an epilogue. The 7th seal, which is the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls, continues the intensity of God's wrath through the second half of the great tribulation until the coming of Jesus Christ in Revelation 19. Only a pre-70th week or pre-tribulational rapture can consistently fulfill the promises. God has not destined us to wrath. If that is true, and it seems pretty plain, then the church must be removed before. Revelation 1:3 says, "Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear and who keep what is written in it, for the time is near." And we all say together, Maranatha, come soon, Lord Jesus.
Okay, I want everybody to close their books, take out a piece of paper. We're going to have a pop quiz here. You got to repeat all the sequences that he just went over, but you can see why I had John do this, because he's well acquainted with the material. And I'm not sure if I totally agree with John, but
we're praying for you, brother.
There's so much material to sort through, but excellent job, and is very, very